The biological father of Son Goku, Bardock is one of the most iconic and most popular characters in all of Dragon Ball. Therefore, on this edition of Dragon Ball In Depth, I will provide the most comprehensive historical recollection of the life of Bardock, including the true origins of the character, his huge impact on the story, and how he continues to be relevant even today.
この放送はご覧のスポンサーの提供でお送りします。
Behind the scenes, Bardock is a fascinating story. Bardock is the only character in Dragon Ball that was not created by Toriyama but actually made it to the original manga. In the past, there was very little light shed on Goku's heritage, if any at all. In the early story, you could assume that Goku's grandpa took care of him and that he was orphaned. It wasn't until the arrival of Radix and the reveal that Goku was an alien that people began to wonder about Goku's biological family. In following with the name puns of the entire race, Bardock was named after the burdock plant and was designed consistently with what Radix told Goku at the start of DBZ about how he resembled their father. Fun fact is that all of Bardock's family were named after root vegetables: burdock, radish, carrot, and of course onion for Gine. But more on her later. Bardock was created by Katsuyoshi Nakatsuru, whom is most famous for not only being a character designer for the anime, but also working on a lot of the art for the merchandise. What's interesting is that even though Nakatsuru did the original designs for Bardock and his crew, Toriyama himself made a number of modifications on the character designs, and that became the finished product. However, you can actually see some of Nakatsuru's original designs in the final shot of the TV special. It is a common misconception amongst fans that the Bardock TV special is the DBZ movie, mostly because Funimation released it as a quote feature. However, the Bardock special is just that, a TV special, and is in fact an extended 1-hour television episode that aired in the same time slot as Dragon Ball Z with commercial breaks and all. Fans got their first look at Bardock on October 17, 1990 when a final solitary battle, the father of Z-Warrior Kakaroto who challenged Frieza, first premiered in between episodes 63 and 64, which was right before Vegeta fought Recoome on planet Namek. When it was dubbed by Funimation, it was simplified to just Bardock, the father of Goku, and came out after the Frieza saga had already aired on Toonami. The original English dub for the Bardock special has an extreme level of script changes when compared to the Japanese, even more so than normal, and thus I highly recommend watching it in Japanese at least once. The Bardock special was written by Takao Koyama and Katsuyuki Sumisawa, with Toriyama having little input on the actual story, if any at all. So, what was the story? The events of Bardock's life were originally chronicled in the Bardock special, which simultaneously tied into the destruction of Planet Vegeta and Goku's arrival on Earth years before the series began. Personally, I think it is one of the best stories in the franchise. In the special, Bardock and his comrades are seen overtaking planet Kanasa. After the battle is won, a Kanasan survivor inflicts Bardock with a gift and a curse, the ability to see into the future. While recuperating, Bardock begins to have strange visions of confusing events involving his youngest son Kakarot on Earth and the destruction of planet Vegeta at the hands of Frieza. While Bardock was out of commission, Frieza was allowing his paranoia to consume him and orders Bardock's crew to attack Planet Meat, which was in fact a suicide mission because Frieza's right-hand man Dodoria was awaiting them. Bardock awakens to meet up with his mates, completely unaware of Frieza's plot, ignoring his premonitions. When Bardock arrives on Meat, he is horrified to discover that his crew was annihilated, with only one barely alive. Bardock watches him die, takes his blood-soaked armband, and puts it on his head as symbolism of his loyalty to his comrades. Bardock then engages Dodoria's men and successfully kicks their ass, but Dodoria proved to be too strong for him. Dodoria leaves the planet presuming Bardock was dead, but the lone warrior barely survived. With Dodoria's betrayal, he quickly realizes that his visions are in fact of the future and manages to return to planet Vegeta to warn everybody about Frieza's plot as Frieza approaches the planet for his final solution. The others don't believe Bardock's story and just assume that he'd been in too many fights. Bardock realizes that he's on his own and takes his destiny into his own hands, leading a one-man assault against Frieza. Bardock completely underestimated Frieza's power as the tyrant destroyed not only Bardock, but the entire planet. As Bardock is dying, he has one final vision of his son face to face with Frieza, symbolic of a battle that wouldn't happen for another 2 decades. Bardock was a big hit, including with Akira Toriyama himself, who really loved the story. Toriyama's quote, "It's a pretty dramatic story that I'd never draw myself. I got to see a different kind of Dragon Ball in a good way." End quote. He was so thrilled by the character of Bardock that he actually put him in the manga after seeing the special in 2 panels. These scenes were adapted into the anime with DBZ episode 86 using flashbacks from the original special. Although Toriyama never actually drew the entire story of Bardock into his original manga, many fans assumed that the event of the special still counted as the authorized version of Bardock's life. However, in 2013, everything was thrown for a loop and made a bit more confusing. Toriyama revealed that he would be writing Dragon Ball Minus, a bonus chapter meant to ultimately reveal Goku's mother and Bardock's wife Guinea, which had never been seen before. It turned out that although Guinea was there, this would end up being somewhat of a retelling of the end of Bardock's life and Goku's trip to Earth, except from Toriyama's point of view. The character of Bardock in Dragon Ball Minus is vastly different than any previous portrayal of him, from the original special to the video games. Bardock seemed much less aggressive and more caring about his son. There was no mention of Bardock's crew, his ability to see into the future, no climactic showdown with Frieza, nothing. Rather than baby Goku just be sent to Earth as a routine attempt to wipe out the planet for sale, much like was told to us in the original story, Guinea and Bardock sent a 3-year-old Goku to Earth because Bardock himself suspected Frieza would betray them, creating even more parallels to the origin of Superman. Most fans that I've talked to have negative opinions about the story told in Dragon Ball Minus and the mischaracterization of Bardock. But like it or not, and I definitely prefer the dramatic events of the TV special and the story told there, this is Bardock from the pen of Toriyama himself, even though the original story and character of Bardock was not Toriyama's. This is going to create even more canon debates for years to come. Ugh. Bardock is so damn popular that Toei, Namco Bandai, and many others have continued to promote him and use him in other materials, specifically video games, to tell new Bardock stories. The first of these was featured in the now defunct MMORPG Dragon Ball Online, whose storylines and themes and characters have carried over into both Dragon Ball Xenoverse and the Dragon Ball Heroes arcade game. In this story, Demon King Mira saves Bardock's life just before he dies at the hands of Frieza and brainwashes him with a mind control mask, turning him into the Kamen no Saiyajin, who tries to screw around with the events of the Dragon Ball timeline. Time Patrol Trunks manages to redeem him. In Dragon Ball Heroes, once Bardock is defeated, he is freed from the mind control and turns on Mira, revealing that he has indeed unlocked Super Saiyan 3. Interestingly enough, in one of the Jakku missions in Dragon Ball Heroes previously, Bardock reveals that he had previously ascended to SSJ2, so obviously God and SSJ4 are coming because these game designers seem to have a hard-on for giving this guy an insane amount of power despite him not being that strong in the anime. It's 100% fan service, but hey, people like Bardock, so why the hell not? So that's the story of Bardock. But wait, what about Episode of Bardock? Nope, I didn't forget. On the next edition of Dragon Ball In Depth, I'll talk in depth about the history of Episode of Bardock. I will catch you then. Hey Super Tubers, don't forget to rate, comment, subscribe, and spread the word about the channel, and find me on these social media platforms.